You're very welcome back to Ireland AM now. How often do meteors hit Ireland? Well, this week, that question came to the fore after one astronomy enthusiast found what he thought was a meteorite on a North Dublin beach.
Well, joining us to discuss this is Professor of Geology, Dr Ian Sanders. And via Skype is David Moore from Astronomy Ireland. Good morning to you both. We'll start with you, Dr Sanders. The whole Portmarnock beach incident that occurred, did David do the right thing?
Absolutely. He saw something that was highly unusual, a big hole, and there at the bottom was this stone. Now, he is interested in astronomy, and it's just struck him that maybe this piece of stone, he gave it to me last night,
I can't believe that's the actual stone in question.
That's the actual stone, yes. And it's about the same size and shape as a meteorite might be. At first sight, it's quite reasonable to expect it to be. But there he was, he saw it. Could it possibly be a meteorite, small meteorite impact crater? And science is all about asking questions. And, OK, it turned out not to be. But let me just go back to 1969. It's a few years back, but a meteorite did land in Ireland in 1969. It landed in County Derry. And it made a hole in the ground. And but for a farmer seeing that hole wasn't there yesterday, what's going on? And there's a stone in the bottom of it. And that was the discovery of the Bovidi meteorite. It was a very important find. And so David could have been lucky, but it turned out not to.
So it could conceivably have happened. But it's not unusual for that to happen in Ireland, that you get meteorites of that size landing. Does it happen a couple of times a year, they estimate?
No. It's hard to estimate. There have been about one every 30 or 40 years.
Oh, is that all?
That's the rate they've been found. But
could they be more that just haven't been?
There could be a lot more.
Yeah.
And because they're travelling and heavy, most of Ireland's surface is soft soil, bog and so on. And they just bury themselves and they never get seen.
What speed would they be travelling at?
Well, before they hit the Earth, while they're travelling in space, they're travelling at many thousands of kilometres per second. Per
second?
Sorry, I'm getting confused. Very fast indeed. Fast enough that when they hit the atmosphere, they create a fireball.
So they're really, really hot then when they...
The meteorite's actually stone cold. It's actually the surface.
Really?
The surface that rubs against the atmosphere. The friction causes it to glow as a hot fireball.
Oh. Yeah. So any kind of accusations that maybe the meteorite could have caused the sand to turn into glass or something like that, is that possible?
Well, probably not, because what happens, the fireball goes out because the meteorite slowed right down, and then it just drops from space.
Right.
And it falls at kind of terminal velocity, about 100 metres a second this time.
Yeah.
And it would make a hole in the ground, all right? Yeah. And so to make
of a similar size?
To make a crater, it really needs to be a big one that doesn't get slowed down. So it's still going fast when it actually meets the surface, not just dropping at 100 metres a second.
Okay, like the one that caused the Ice Age that decimated the entire universe. We didn't have that anyway.
Look, that's limestone.
So this is a piece of limestone, and as I say, it's the same size and shape as a meteorite might have been. So it's fair enough to expect it to have perhaps been a meteorite.
Yeah. So, but I suppose it was maybe too good to be true that we had something like that, a discovery like that. But I suppose we have to go across to David now from Astronomy Ireland. David, I suppose we've seen enthusiasts talk about these sort of things for years. They're far and few between when they do. But is it unusual to see a hoax like this?
Oh, yes, definitely. As Ian said, when we saw the size of the crater, meteorites, they free fall the last 10 kilometres. So it's just like dropping a rock from a very great height. You don't expect a crater that big. So we were a bit sceptical to begin with that it was a real meteorite fall. But, you know, the great thing is, if you contact people like Dr. Sanders, you will be able to get it tested. And he's now said it's a piece of limestone. Being a geologist, one thing I like, he's been helping us do this for 3 decades, is even if it isn't a meteorite, if it's what we call a meteor wrong, he can tell you what it really is. There are some interesting specimens lying around the fields. But we see giant fireballs in the sky all the time now. I don't know if you've got any footage of any, but they do happen over Ireland. And once every 30 years, perhaps twice a century, we're picking up an actual meteorite on the ground. But we do estimate statistically probably 2 meteorites fall on Irish soil unseen, or they fall in fields or rocky terrain. No one will ever find them.
OK. Are any of these crash sites preserved?
Well, hopefully they would be. Had this been an actual meteorite fall, the recommendation is don't touch it because things under your fingers can contaminate the actual meteorite. It's not dangerous to touch. It's not radioactive. It's not kryptonite. It's not carrying bugs from space. But we just want to preserve them scientifically. And people, are better off perhaps reporting them. But of course, this is in a public beach, so somebody was bound to pick it up, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Have you seen any yourself?
Oh yes, I mean, Dr. Sanders given many talks to Astronomy Ireland. He very kindly brings along meteorites and hands them out. So we've all touched them. There's a collection of meteorites in the National Museum. I'm not sure if they're on display at the moment, but if they are, do go along and see them. They have a sample of Mars and the Moon, and I've been privileged to hold both. So I can actually say I've touched the planet Mars and the Moon, even though I haven't really been there.
Dr. Ian Sanders, so you had bits of Mars and the Moon and you didn't bring it in to show us?
Well, I'm sorry.
I'm only messing. I'm only messing. No. But isn't it amazing, though, because we're all fascinated with space, I certainly am as well, to think that something from another galaxy can make its way to us at some point?
Not from another galaxy.
Really? Not from another galaxy? It can only be the Milky Way?
And not even the Milky Way.
Just our solar system?
From our own solar system.
Well, that's very disappointing.
Yep. If you look at the fireballs, people have studied them, and they've been able to work out from the trajectory of the fireball where they've come from. And they come from out beyond Mars, but not as far as Jupiter. And in that zone between Mars and Jupiter, we would expect a planet to be there by the regular spacing, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars. And then there's a sort of a gap. And that's the asteroid belt. And that's where meteorites come from. So it's a planet that never made it and ended up as lots of broken bits of small baby planets. And it's bits of the asteroid belt that come to us as meteorites.
So bits of small baby planets landing.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah.
Isn't that lovely? Listen, thank you so much. I'm getting very carried away. I've watched far too much
This
Star Trek
is
and
what
Star
she
Wars,
loves.
by the way. This is my thing, and I'm very silly about it, but thank you so much. And the next time, bring me a bit of Mars. I'd be
And
delighted.
Dave Moore as well, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much to
Well,
both of you. Now,
thanks, Dave.
still to come, we cross back over to Katia and Malahide as she hangs out with mentalist and hypnotist Keith Barry.
Oh, don't look him in the eyes, Katya. Just don't look him in the eyes.
No.
And we're baking focaccia bread in the kitchen too. We're back after this short break.